Hyrule Warriors. That happens. In all honesty, it was a game I was kind of interested in, but didn't want to really commit to getting until I was able to play it for a little bit with some friends when I was visiting them. And overall, it's okay. Like, I can't really say it's a bad game, but I can't, like, it's not a game I would be like, yeah, this game was amazing. It's just kind of there. I've never played Dynasty Warriors games before, so I don't know how they stack up. I've heard a few friends that have played them say that this is a lot better than most Dynasty Warriors games, so that's good that we got the good Dynasty Warriors game out of the Zelda franchise. Just overall, there's a lot of stuff to do in the game, but it's just kind of like it's repetitive. That's probably my one gripe of it. It's repetitive. It's just you go, you beat up enemies, you beat some bosses. All the bosses have pretty much once you know how to fight a boss, that's how you fight the boss. That's about it. There's a main campaign mode, which is a kind of fanficky type story that's interesting. Not the best, not the worst, but it's just kind of a cute little fan service type game. With that said, I don't really care that the fact that they only really seem to care about 3 Zelda titles and they don't give any of the other ones recognition, which is kind of dumb. I know people are like, well, they give the first title recognition with the adventure mode thing, and there's like weapons from some of the other games. It's just like, There's a lot of cool characters from the other Zelda games that aren't just strictly from Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, and Twilight Princess. There's a lot of cool stuff, and I guess like maybe they're thinking about doing a sequel, so that's why they're not touching them. But it's like, this is a cute little game and a nice fun experiment, but we don't need a sequel to this. There's no reason for it. It's good as it is. So yeah, I would have liked them to like maybe Tetra. I mean, we're gonna put characters like freaking Agatha in. It'd be funny to like have Salvatore from Wind Waker have some weird attacks where he just like throws paintings at people or something. That would be funny. Like, I like that aspect of it because with some of the characters that you're like, how the heck do they fight? They make them really interesting and entertaining to watch, and it's kind of funny in that respect. The main campaign mode is pretty short, not that big of a deal. You can do it co-op, which is fun. But those are like really easy. Like once you figure out how to do stuff, the campaign mode is literally just you kill enemies and that's about it. That can be fun on its own, but it does get very repetitive. There is then the adventure mode, which is pretty cool, in which you have to do all these different little challenges to unlock more parts of this map. And the adventure mode is kind of like, I have ups and downs with it, because sometimes those challenges are like, yeah, sure, whatever, and sometimes they're like, this is like freaking impossible, how the hell are you supposed to do this? And you need to beat some of these challenges to get some of the other weapons and that kind of stuff. And I understand why, but in that kind of situation with like some of these like being as hard as they are, it'd be nice if you could give me like alternatives to unlocking the stuff, because I don't really want to play some of these maps ad nauseum just to get one stupid little thing. But in that regard, like, there's a lot of replayability to it, and I think the fact that it is a bit repetitive does kind of make it a lot easier to pick up. And it is fun to go co-oping with someone, because then you can kind of split up and do your own things, capture stuff a lot faster. There's not much else to say about it. Like, if you have an interest in it, it might be worth it. If you're looking for like an actual Zelda game, this isn't a Zelda game. This is like, I appreciate that the English title is called Hyrule Warriors, because it's like, yeah, there's no Zelda in the title. It's not a Zelda game. It's this game that has Zelda characters in it, that plays completely unlike a Zelda game, with a lot of combat heavy, that with a lot of troops that are kind of stupid, that just kind of sit there and just like, I'm gonna go stomp you with a giant fairy foot. Have fun. One thing though, like, if they were to make a second game to this, I would say don't make it Zelda. Zelda, fine, it's the big flagship Nintendo, like, it's a big Nintendo title, I understand. But, like, as I was playing the game a lot, like, I always kept thinking, like, there's a series that Nintendo has that would make a lot more sense for this, because, you're going into war, you're capturing fortresses and that kind of stuff, and you're trying to advance an army. And it's like, why didn't they make this a Fire Emblem game? There's tons of characters in the Fire Emblem series that you could use, and since they have the Awakening thing of the whole Outrealm gate. You could just make a whole like giant fanfic thing with that thing in of itself, and like the gameplay is fun enough that it would be fun to kind of go around with the Fire Emblem characters instead. That's what I always like think of every time I pick it up and I start playing it. Just kind of go, I'd like to be playing as Ike right now because that would be a lot more fun. Don't get me wrong, playing as Agatha is silly and that's fun too. But when I think of like what would be more suited to this type of gameplay, if we're gonna go with this type of gameplay and say it's like about wars and that kind of stuff, yeah, the Fire Emblem cast would make a lot more sense to me. But you know, Zelda has more marketability, so I understand that reasoning. But still, overall, it's a fun game. It's not like if you don't have any interest in it, you're not gonna like it. I would say if you have like no interest in it, then yeah. I'd say if you have a chance, like, if someone who owns it, just, like, maybe borrow it, maybe just play a few co-op rounds of it, see if you enjoy it enough. In terms of, like, is it being a great action game, it's really simple to figure out, and I guess that has its pros and cons as well. Simplicity can be a turn-off to some people, but it can be very positive for some other people that might have a harder time learning the more complex battle systems of other games, so there's some pros and cons of that as well. That's really about it. There's not much else to say about it. It's just kind of, it exists. It's not a bad game. Not a great game, but not a bad game. I'd say it's one major point. They made the most badass looking Ganondorf ever. I kind of want to see that Ganondorf design show up in an actual Zelda game.